Hello and welcome to the Implicit Show. Today on the show, we've got a pretty fun topic. We're going to expand on what we talked about yesterday. It's all about mindset, guys. It all starts in here. Tapping into the true potential of the human spirit. This is Humanity Empowered. This is the Implicit Show. Okay, cool. I'm pretty excited about this, guys. I'm pretty excited about this because yesterday, I got to tell you, yesterday was probably one of the most powerful episodes I've done. Like, I just kind of let it all out, man. Like, I didn't hold anything back, basically, and so it felt good. You know, sometimes I do hold back a little bit, you know, because I'm still getting into this. I'm still learning. It's still a process for me. What are we now? We're 30 episodes in. I've probably done at least 100 podcasts by now. So yeah, I'm starting to get into the rhythm, and I feel like yesterday, you know, I really let my emotions show more than I have before. And so that was pretty cool. I gotta thank you guys for just being so loving and you know, responsive. You know, we've had a lot of great people in the comment section. Actually, let me check the comment section. We're gonna make sure we check that out. We had a lot of amazing people in the comment section. Just being super loving, being able to relate to a lot of things I was talking about. So that's really cool. If you guys are in the show today, you know, feel free to comment. We can still chat. We can still have fun. But today, you know, we're going to talk about how to take back control of your mindset. You know, yesterday we really talked a lot about why mindset controls everything. And so we talked about kind of how your mindset works and why it works that way. And today is going to be a lot of the how to take control of that. Like I said before, I'm coming up with a book next week or the week after. It's going to be called Mindset Mastery, and it's all about, you know, I've done so much research into this because not even because I intended to write a book. I did not intend to write a book when I was doing all this research and when I was learning all this stuff. My whole intention was just to take back control of my mindset because I wasn't happy with my life. Like, if I'm being open here and I'm being vulnerable, like, I hated myself. I hated my life. I thought I was cheated. I thought life cheated me. I thought the government cheated me, my parents, society. And meanwhile, I had so much in my life to feel grateful for. I had so much abundance around me, a loving family, loving friends, you know, skills and talents that I've worked hard to develop. Like, I have value. And so I really had to reshift my mind and think of things differently because I was such a negative person. And you hear it all the time. Oh, you got to be positive. You got to be positive. What about positivity? Don't forget to be positive. And it's true. It really is true. But, you know, it's hard. It's not easy being positive. Especially when you've been conditioned for so long to be negative. And that's just where I was at. You know, I was always complaining. I was always, you know, either upset with people or, you know, envious, jealous, just pissed off a lot of the times, like just frustrated and anxious. You know, I had a lot of anxiety too, social anxiety, performance anxiety, all sorts of problems that I was going through at the time. You know, I remember the first time I got on stage to share music, and I was like so excited about it because I have such a passion for music, and it's something I love to do. It's something that I really see helping people, you know, put a smile on people's face. That's what I love to do, get people into it, get people dancing, having a good time. And I was so scared. I was like so worried about what people were going to think about me. My whole family was there. You know, I had a bunch of friends from school were there. People that I'd never met before were there. I had all these people who loved and supported me. No matter what, whether I sucked or whether I did amazing, they were going to support me. And I was still nervous. I was still afraid. I was still scared. And so I've been able to get over that, as you can tell, because I could get in front of this camera now at any point and just talk and just go off. And because it's stuff that I've lived, you know, like I said this yesterday, if you try to get me on here to talk about math or science or biology, right? Like I'm out. I can't, right? But when it comes to psychology, when it comes to mindset, motivation, inspiration, transformation, right? These are the stuff that I learned it initially just for myself. I didn't even intend to share it, but like as I started like just, you know, creating changes in my life and creating changes in my mindset, other people started to notice, and other people were like, "Hey man, like you got to share some of this stuff. Like you got to share your story. You got to share your transformation, because you could really inspire people. You could really help people with that." And I didn't even think about it until, you know, I just started to see more transformation in the people around me. I was like, wow, like I'm inspiring you somehow. Like that's amazing. And so it really became my mission in life. It really became something that was like, man, nothing felt more good to me than knowing that I had been helping somebody like with their life, whether it even just be a shift in mindset or just being a good role model. Nothing made me feel better. And so I want to help you guys get there because you may be struggling right now, and you don't know how to get out of these negative thought patterns or these negative emotions or just bad habits, right? And you don't know how to get out of it and you're having a tough time. Don't worry, I've been there. Most people are there right now. Like literally most people are there. And so on the other hand, you might actually be doing very well in life. You might be finally gaining momentum towards your dreams, the stuff that you want to have in life, the stuff that you want to do. And that's amazing. I honor you for that. That's awesome. But either way, you could always benefit from small mindset shifts. And this is what's changed my life, guys. It wasn't an overnight, oh my gosh, my life has changed, this is amazing. No, it started off with just one little shift. I'm going to decide to drink water instead of pop. There's a small mindset shift. I said, I want to have more energy. I want to be healthier. I want to feel better. I want to look better. I want to have more pride in myself. So I'm going to make that change. I'm going to make that small shift. And then the next shift, okay, I'm going to go for a walk. I'm going to start walking. I'm going to stop taking the elevator and I'm going to start taking the stairs. Small little shifts, small little changes. I'm going to stop eating junk food and I'm going to try to eat one healthy meal a day. Just maybe I'll start buying oranges from now on instead of buying hot dogs. Right? Or maybe I'm going to start buying some spinach and some salad instead of burgers or something, right? And so it was all these small shifts, and sure enough, I quit drinking. I wasn't overnight. I just told myself, I'm going to stop drinking for a while. And then I, fell back into it for a little bit and then realized it wasn't my thing. And then I quit drinking completely. They weren't always overnight changes, but they were small shifts. And so the two things that I really want to drill home today are consistency and conditioning. These are the two things that have changed my life. Like I said, my expertise in this area comes from me living it, from me actually creating changes in my life. This isn't just a book I read. This isn't just a thing. And trust me, I've read a lot of books. I've listened to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of audios. I love that stuff. It's part of my conditioning process. It's part of me conditioning myself for success, just like you guys are doing right now. You guys are listening to a podcast, and it's not just any podcast. I'm not just here messing around trying to entertain you. I mean, I try to entertain you a little bit, obviously, because we got to have fun here, but it's a lot of this is just about empowerment and education, right? I want you guys to be empowered by the tools that have empowered me. And so consistency and conditioning. Let me start with conditioning, okay? Conditioning is so important, and you don't realize how much you're really conditioned until you bring awareness to that. And so one of the things that have completely changed my life, actually probably the most important thing that has changed my life, is my self-awareness. I've taken so much time to think about myself. I've taken so much time to analyze myself and try to figure out what makes me tick. And through knowing what makes me tick, I have immense power now, because you can't make mindset shifts until you know what your mindset is right now. Right. And a lot of our mindset is unconscious. It's in the subconscious, and we don't consciously think about it. We just automatically react to things. And that's where I've been able to make a shift. And trust me, I'm not perfect by any means. I still have a ton of mindset shifts that I need to make. And I still have a long path ahead of me. I'm 22 years old and I'm learning every day and I'm sharing it with people. I'm a student first, a teacher second, servant always, right? This is what I've learned from Brendan Burchard, an amazing mentor of mine, because I'm always learning from people, right? It's one of the mindset shifts that have helped me. Well, first of all, it's helped me gain the self-awareness. Because through listening to podcasts and audios and books and conditioning myself in that way, like when I'm listening to Tony Robbins, for example, is my number one mentor, man. He's changed my life more than anybody. When I listen to the things he says, he always asks really powerful questions. Like not just any question. He's not just going to ask you, how are you doing today? Or what do you think about your life? No, he asks you really powerful questions that really make you think, like, who are you really at the deepest level? What is most important to you in life? What is most important to you in a relationship, in your business, right? What makes you believe that, right? What would you have to believe to value that? And like, there's just so many questions that have helped me realize the mindset I have, helped me realize the beliefs and the values that are like in my heart and in my soul and in my mind. And I've been able to change those. Like, that's amazing, is when you could realize who you are and what you are, and then you could change it. Like, that's powerful, because then you're no longer living in reaction to what the universe or life is telling you to be. You're now deciding who you want to be, right? That was one of the most powerful changes of my life. And I mentioned this in the last episode. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I always believed in tradition. I was like, hey, this is a family tradition. Like, I am this person because I was born into this family. I was born into this tradition. This is who I am just because of my environment, right? But what if everybody just accepted their environment? It wouldn't be right. We wouldn't have amazing leaders who defy the odds. We wouldn't have heroes. We wouldn't have people. Well, I mean, we might, but think about it. If you grow up in the slums, right, and there's crime and there's poverty and you've got all these adversities against you, right? What are the odds of you rising above? What are the odds of you getting out of that if you just accept your environment, right? A person doesn't just accept that. A person says, I will never let this happen for me or for my family or for my friends ever again, and I'm going to find a way to help. I'm going to find a way to change it. I'm going to find a way to succeed. And so what is that? It's a mindset shift. And I keep coming back to this idea of mindset shifting because it's just those small little beliefs. I'll tell you, one of the things I started doing, and this is part of my conditioning process. I want to talk about conditioning a lot here. Part of the conditioning process that I did was, as I was listening to audios and I was reading books and I was watching videos and engaging in different conversations, I was lucky to have amazing people around me who wanted to talk about this kind of stuff. You know, like I had friends who were interested in the changes that I were making. They're like, let's talk about it. Like, I'm curious. And they were open to listening to me talk and hearing my story. And so I was really grateful to have that. But part of the conditioning process was I would take certain things that I heard or that I said or that I thought, just amazing, empowering feelings, and I'd put them on paper. And then I'd turn this into like a book. It was like my own book that I would read. And so I would read this book every day. And it's not so much a big book, you know what I mean? It's really just a jumble of affirmations and quotes and sentences and ideas and empowering beliefs and mindset shifts that I wanted to adopt. And obviously this kind of stuff doesn't happen overnight, but I noticed as I conditioned myself, every day, and let me be real here, it wasn't always every day, right? Part of the conditioning process is you're human, right? You're probably going to make mistakes. It's just bound to happen. And so it wasn't every day. Sometimes I'd fall off the wagon for a week, 2 weeks, a month, right? And then I'd get back onto it and I'd realize how powerful it was to do that process and to condition myself in that way. I remember I remember when I was working in landscaping, and I tell this story all the time, you know, I would be cutting grass, cutting down trees, listening to audios, conditioning myself 8 hours a day. And then I'd get home and I'd watch videos and condition myself even more because I was obsessed with conditioning myself because I knew I was messed up here, right? I was lucky I hit rock bottom. I hit to the point where I knew I couldn't get any worse. I knew it couldn't get any worse for me. And so it was easy for me to realize I had to change. I had an open mind at that point. I was like, man, nothing's working. Like I'll try anything to succeed, you know? And that's the problem is when people succeed, they get cautious and they're like, oh, I don't know. I'm not going to try that. I'm not going to change anything. But when people fail, what happens when people fail? They think twice, don't they? They really do, because they're like, man, well, I've been failing. I could change anything and it'll be good, right? So talking about conditioning, that's really what it is you can't expect to go to the gym once and all of a sudden be fit forever. Like you're just healthy now. You're just good to go. You never have to go back to the gym again. The same goes for when you're reading a book. You read that book once and you probably got a bunch of great ideas from it. Maybe it's like a strategy book, an inspirational book, motivational, self-improvement, whatever it is. You read a book and you get a ton of lessons from it. You learn, you're soaking all this information in, right? What happens when a year goes by? I guarantee you will forget 70, 80, if not 90% of what you read in that book, unless you condition yourself to know it, unless you condition yourself to live it, right? And by conditioning yourself, I mean, maybe you read the book twice. Maybe when you're reading the book, you take a highlighter and a pencil and you highlight or take notes in certain areas that really inspired you. Maybe that's what you do, right? There's so many ways you can empower yourself in this way. And there's so many ways you can condition yourself, but make sure that you repeat, practice. Repetition is the mother of skill. I remember when I was a kid and I was a kid. I was probably like 15 years old. I was 15 years old and I was lucky to go on a school field trip, but it wasn't just any school field trip. I was in the school rock band. And so it was amazing. I was in school and we used to be allowed to skip class to go play rock music. It was really cool. Anyways, we went to this music festival with a bunch of other rock bands from different schools, and some of them were rock bands, some of them were a cappella groups, and there's some really cool stuff. There's an amazing event. And I remember seeing this one guitar player who blew my mind. This kid was probably a year younger than me, maybe 2 years younger than me. And when I saw this kid step on stage, I was like, this kid, like, he's just a little guy. Like, what's he got? And he starts ripping this guitar, just ripping. I could not believe what he was doing. I was so mad at him. I was mad. Like, I was legit mad. I was like, I'm older than this kid. How is he doing that? How is he so much better than I am? And I couldn't help myself. I had to talk to him after the show, and I did. I went up to him and I asked him, I was like, man, you are amazing at that guitar. Like, what do you do? Like, what's the secret? And he's like, I practice 6 hours a day, every day, no excuses. And I thought, holy shit, like, this kid's crazy. Like, I would never play for 6 hours a day. I was too into video games. I was too into soccer. I was too into road hockey or hanging out with my buddies, right? I had other priorities. But this kid had one priority. It was like, I don't care what I do. For 6 hours a day, I'm going to play this guitar. And he conditioned himself on a daily basis. He wasn't only conditioning himself, he was conditioning himself consistently, right? He wasn't just practicing for 6 hours one day and then taking the rest of the week off. No, every single day. And he was better at guitar then than I am now. And years later, I'm 22 years old. I was probably like 15. It's like 7 years ago. And this kid, I could not even imagine where he is today. I mean, I hope he's still playing guitar. I hope he's still succeeding, because he was amazing, right? Because he had that conditioning. It was just a part of who he was. It was a habit, right? And that's what conditioning really is building a habit. And so many times, you know, they say it takes like 21 days to build a habit. That's the kind of industry standard or whatever. But some people say it takes 30 days, 66 days, 100 days, whatever. It's all bull. I think a habit is different. It's not something you count the days for. A habit is something that you do for life, isn't it? That's why we call it a habit. That's why we call it conditioning, because it's not just once or for so many days, it's forever. This is what you do now. It becomes who you are. And so I think if you really want to develop new habits, if you want to develop a healthier eating, maybe you want to exercise more. Maybe you want to build a habit of reading a book every so often or every day for so many pages, 10 pages a day. Maybe you want to meditate. Whatever it is, stop thinking of it. This is a mindset shift again, guys. You stop thinking about it as a habit or as a challenge that you're going to take on for so many days, and you start saying, okay, this is who I am. I meditate every single day. This is just who I am. I am a meditator, right? I'm an athlete. I exercise every day. I am this, right? You change your identity. You change who you are. And that's when you actually build a habit, because I don't care who you are. Okay, you take 21 days to exercise every single day, and then day 22 comes around, you're like, wow, man, I did pretty good. That is amazing. I'm going to reward myself by not working out for the next day. And then the next day comes around, you're like, you know what? I'm going to take another day off. The next day, and then you start building momentum on the opposite end where you're not working out. And so you build momentum in that, and then it's going to just be harder and harder and harder to get back into the habit. And so, sure, after so many days, it's going to get easier, but that shouldn't matter to you. It shouldn't matter to you whether it's easy or whether it's hard. It's who you are. It's what you do, right? And so for me, when I quit drinking alcohol, it wasn't just because I said I'm going to challenge myself to see how long I could go without drinking. I told myself I am not a drinker. That is not who I am. I do not drink alcohol. And I decided that one day, I just made the decision, like, I'm going to not do it anymore at all. And I made that decision. And so I consistently conditioned myself. Also, you know, I didn't just say I'm not going to do it. I actually conditioned myself to think differently about alcohol. And that's another key, guys, is if you want to change a bad habit, maybe it's smoking cigarettes, maybe you're drinking liquor, maybe you're eating meat and dairy and like junk food and candy and chocolate and garbage, ice cream, gross, right? Maybe that's what it is. I literally conditioned myself to think about alcohol differently because I loved alcohol, guys. I really loved it. It made me feel loose, like I could be free. I could stop caring so much about what other people think, and I could just be a freaking weirdo. I could just be an idiot. I could just be drunk, free Bren, right? And I eventually conditioned myself to think about it differently. Every time I took a sip of alcohol, instead of thinking like, oh, this tastes so good, I can't wait to get drunk, I used to think about how every time alcohol touches your tongue, it's immediately into your bloodstream. Alcohol doesn't take any shortcuts. It's immediately in your bloodstream. And it's immediately tearing shit apart. Like, it is tearing you to shreds from the inside out. instantly. And I started to condition myself to start thinking about that. Another thing I conditioned myself to think about was, I remember growing up, I saw my family drink a lot. And so oftentimes they'd get super freaking drunk, and then they'd start arguing with each other over stupid things, right? Like this uncle is arguing with that uncle, is arguing with that aunt, who's arguing with my mom and my dad, and grandma's over there getting into it. Like so much arguments. And so I conditioned myself to think of alcohol as like making people argue. Because I remember we never argued when we were sober. It was just all of a sudden we're drunk and we're going to argue, right? I started conditioning myself to think about it differently. How about meat, right? Meat. Oh my gosh, guys, I love meat. Before I get into meat, I want to say congratulations to Steve Renier. Steve Renier is saying he's been over 3.5 years no alcohol. That's awesome, man. If I give you like a high five through the camera, I totally would, because I'm with you there, man. Like for me, it's probably been about a year and a half that I haven't drank any alcohol, and one of the best decisions I've made. I can never go back. Anyway, so I want to talk about food, how I conditioned myself to think differently about my favorite foods. Okay, poutine, guys. I don't know if you're from America or if you're from UK. We've got listeners all over the world, but here in Canada, poutine's a big deal. Poutine is a big deal. And so what it is French fries with some shit ton of cheese and then some gravy, right? Just some hot gravy on top. It's melted, it's all tasty, and like people go crazy over poutines here. You get poutines at pretty much every fast food restaurant at this point. It wasn't like that when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was like lucky to find a poutine. Now it's freaking everywhere. Anyways, this is my favorite food. It really was my favorite food for the longest time. But I was able to condition myself to think differently about cheese and gravy, right? Part of it was I watched a lot of eye-opening documentaries, and I'm the type of person who's always looking to learn. I have such an open mind that if you tell me something that makes sense, like if it makes sense, I have no problem changing my beliefs. I have no problem. I don't care if I've believed something for 20 years. I have no problem changing it. If you could show me a better way, take me there, right? That's all I care about. And I've watched some crazy eye-opening documentaries that really made me change my mind about food. Like first off, I wanted to get healthier. Part of it, super selfish of me, because I wanted to be successful. I was like, man, I need to be successful. I need to make it happen. I need to be the best possible me I could be. And so I was basically after energy. I was like, how do I find more energy? What's it going to take to do more energy? I started looking into meats. And I was like, okay, well, maybe I need to eat chicken. Chicken's supposed to give me more energy, right? A lot of bodybuilders, I was watching YouTube, bodybuilders say you need lots of protein, get your chicken breasts in there, go to the grocery store, buy a bunch of chicken breasts, cook them, put them in a bunch of containers, put it in your fridge, boom, you got food for the week. And I did that for a little while. And it just didn't work, basically. I started doing even more research, and even more research was making more sense to me, right? What made more sense to me was, thousands of years ago, as we were evolving as human beings, we used to grow food. We picked food off trees, we grew food, we found food here naturally. There's food everywhere, right? And then all of a sudden we found fire. And then all of a sudden we started killing animals and putting them on the fire. And all of a sudden we started eating that. And okay, it's like a recent thing. It's not something that we've been doing forever and ever and ever. So it's true that we can digest meats, but it's not natural. It's not natural to the human being. And so I started conditioning myself to think of it as like a barbaric process. And so anytime I would start craving a burger or like some chicken breast or a poutine, like some of that cheese, I would start to condition myself to realize that this is disgusting. Like it's really gross. Like this is literally a dead carcass sitting on my plate. And like, what's this cheese? Okay, well, I found out that cheese is like milk, and cheese is contaminated with so much pus. It's like disgusting. I don't want to make you guys throw up here, but I'm telling you guys, these are the kind of things that I had to think about in order for me to change. I would never quit eating meat or drinking alcohol if I still thought it was a good idea. I would never do it. I would never quit drinking or eating junk food if I knew it was tearing down my health and making me feel less energetic, less successful, less happy, more depressed. Right? Because when you eat junk food, whatever you put in your body, people think like, okay, I could just put anything in my body and I'll feel happy and fine. No, you put junk food in your body, maybe you feel good for a second. There's like a quick shot of pleasure. But what happens next? Your body has to go into this process. I got to digest this shit, or I have to do something about this. And so now all of a sudden it messes with your hormones, messes with your brain, messes with your thoughts, your feelings and emotion. And all of a sudden you've lost control of your mindset. And that's why we have an epidemic of suicide. There's more suicides, more suicidal deaths than there are war deaths and natural disaster deaths. And I said this yesterday because when I found this out, it disgusted me. I was like, holy shit, like we're just letting people take their own lives. And a lot of times they're just sick, right? They're sick. They don't know. They need support. They need help, right? They're being fed garbage they're being fed garbage, literally garbage in food. And also the media is feeding them garbage. And also there's just so much ignorance out there. And people don't want to learn. People don't want to educate themselves. They have a mindset against learning. Like they're just blinders closed, right? And so it's been my mission to open people's minds as much as possible, to share new information with you guys, new ideas, because that's the mindset shift that changed my life, was being open-minded to new information. Because like, who am I to say I'm right? Who am I to say that my parents knew what they were talking about? Who am I to say that the government or the school teachers or buddy at school who taught me about this, who am I going to say that they're right? It's a theory for all I'm concerned, right? What I'm sharing with you, maybe it's a theory to you. I would urge you to do your own research and make your own decisions for yourself. That's what's changed my life, right? I didn't just watch one podcast and accept everything that person said. I watched multiple podcasts. I took multiple opinions. I read multiple books. I looked at multiple ideas and decided, okay, I like Tony Robbins' idea instead of this guy's idea. Or I really like what Wayne Dyer is saying here rather than what Deepak Chopra is saying. Or, and then I just picked beliefs and mindsets that I wanted to adopt, and I put them in my file, I put them in my book, and I read it every day. And that becomes who I am because I condition myself on a consistent basis. Consistency. That's the next thing I want to talk about. So actually, Steve Renier's got a comment here. I get a little carried away and I don't see the comments. He says, best here too. I now do amazing things with a clear mind. Quit drinking if you want to see how powerful you can be. He says, fruits, veggies, water, no pop, no juice. Amen. Amen, man. I quit drinking pop. That was one of the first mindset shifts I made, was like, I'm going to stop drinking pop. I'm going to start drinking water. And it's amazing, just amazing. And I was just drinking tap water recently, actually probably the past month, 2 months, as I started this fasting journey. As you guys know, I fasted every Sunday for a month. And today I'm on my first 3-day fast. And so today's my last day of fasting. And I'm going to eat tomorrow. So one of the shifts I made recently was, instead of drinking tap water, I now drag my ass to the store and get the expensive water. Right, I have to bring my jug and I have to, pay for the water and then get the water, and it's healthy, reverse osmosis, right? It's clear, it's clean, and it's just a small shift. But I've noticed energy-wise, I noticed after drinking this water and not drinking tap water, anytime I have a glass of tap water, which I've only done it once because I drank this water and I wanted to puke. It was so gross. Like the difference between the tap water that I used to drink every single day on a daily basis and the water I drink now is night and day. And it was just a small shift, right? It didn't take I didn't change my life with water, right? But I truly believe every small change I make for the better is going to result in an overall better life years down the line. Because the thing about conditioning and consistency is you condition yourself to learn new things and to try new habits and try new things. And as you condition yourself to do that over the years, like you make a small shift, it's like this, it might just look like you made a small shift and it's only going like this, but years down the line, all of a sudden it compounds and you get compounded interest on your good habits. You get compounded interest on your empowering beliefs. You get compounded interest on your positivity, on the things that you give, on the things that you become. And so it's that compound interest that will change your life. It's not, okay, all of a sudden overnight, I'm going to decide to change every single habit I've ever done in life. If you could do that, man, high five. That is amazing. I've never seen anybody do that. That is amazing. For me, I'm telling you, for me, it was one small change at a time. One small change at a time. And it's changed my life. Some changes were bigger than others. And, if you're feeling really down right now, if you're feeling really emotional, if you're feeling really stressed, overwhelmed, depressed, I'm telling you, that is the best opportunity you have. 100% is the best opportunity you have, because when you're in those states, when you're in those lower vibrations, that's when you're more open to change. That's when you're more open to growth. That's when you're being challenged. That's when you're being tested. And so I don't care if you believe in God, the universe, pixie fairies, whatever it is, something, someone, somewhere is challenging you to grow and to become more. Maybe it's yourself, maybe it's your higher self, maybe you don't believe in any of that stuff, but think about it. You could decide that this is a challenge. Is this a challenge or is this a problem? Mindset shift, right? That's all it is. We're getting some comments. Steve Renier says, tap water is better pH, bottled water is high acids, and I refuse to support Nestle. I am on your side. I am on your side. I don't buy bottled water either. I bring my own jug and I get reverse osmosis water out of the machine, which is supposed to be like, that's the cleanest water you could get. Tap water is just like, there's too much plastic bottles. What do you need all that plastic bottles for? I have one beautiful bottle that lasts me forever. So like, it will last me forever. It looks like an urn. This thing's hardcore. Get one. It's like $30 on eBay. Andrew, let's get an affiliate link for these bottles. We'll start selling them, and then we'll support our audience with some great stuff. So as you guys know, I'm on day 3 of my fast, and I'm freaking tired. I'm tired. I'm a little loopy. I'm a little out of it. I noticed watching yesterday's episode, I was like, man, I sound so much different because I'm fasting, because I don't, I'm trying to conserve more energy with my body. I'm detoxing like crazy. I got zits popping on my face with detoxing. I'm pissing like crazy. You guys probably don't need to know all that stuff, but it's really good. It's really great stuff. It feels good to detox. So some of the questions we got here, I mean, we're already 30 minutes over, but I want to make sure I get everything in here. So some of the questions I wrote down, common questions that I would ask back when I needed to know these things, and also this is what I hear other people ask. How do I condition myself for blank? Right? Whether it's for success, for health, for this, for that, for that. I'd say immerse yourself in the environment. First off, you got to break your patterns of who you are, gain awareness on who you are, break that pattern and say, okay, like that's not who I am anymore. Adopt a new belief, adopt a new identity, and you can condition yourself for anything. You could really do it, but condition, guys. This isn't one shot. Okay, all of a sudden I'm this person. It's going to be a struggle at first. It might be a little hard because you are resisting against your identity of who you are. And the identity is the most powerful process in the subconscious mind, right? The subconscious mind, the conscious mind creates an identity for you. And when you try to change that, there's going to be resistance there. Fasting, guys. Jeez. Steve Rennie has actually got another comment. Fasting cultures have proven the detox so good for your system. It really is, guys. The reason I'm doing this, and I've had to condition myself to work up to 3 days. Like I said, this relates because every Sunday I did a fast for 4 Sundays in a row, and now I'm on my 3rd day fast. I had to work up to it, right? I didn't just say overnight I'm going to fast for 100 days, right? No, I said I'm going to fast for 1 day a week for 4 weeks, and then I'm going to fast for 3 days a week for maybe another 4 weeks, and try something like that. Can I be in your band? Yes, you can. And so I had to condition myself to work up to it. And obviously part of making a change, guys, I forgot to mention this, but this is so powerful. Part of making any change is realizing the pain and pleasure aspects of it, right? The way I conditioned myself to think differently about alcohol, and think differently about meat, and think differently about junk food, and think differently about exercise was, well, I had to literally associate pain to that thing and associate pleasure to the next thing, right? So like I said, I thought every time I saw meat or cheese or this or that, or, people at the grocery store who were buying it and then like looking at them, then they're like obese and unhealthy. And I made the connection that, that is not where I want to go. That is not the food I want to eat. That is not the kind of person I want to be. And I started associating pain to that. I was like, man, if that person's eating like that and I eat like that, odds are I'm going to show up just like they do. I'm going to show up 10 years, 20 years down the line, and maybe I'll be obese because I eat just like they do, right? I had to make that connection. On the other hand, I made pleasure connections to like, oh man, it feels so good to be healthy. It feels so good to look in the mirror and saying, wow, I lost 60 pounds of fat. Like just like shit. I lost 50 pounds or 60 pounds. It feels amazing. Right. I mean, Andrea, she's here too. I mean, I could only imagine how she feels. How many pounds have you lost now? 215. She's lost 215 pounds. Could you imagine the amount of like confidence that comes from that? The amount of like pleasure and like positive associations to health, to exercise, to eating the right foods, to making the right decisions for yourself, right? You will never know until you actually do it. And it feels amazing. And so you got to connect pleasure to that thing, right? If you want to start losing weight, you have to make sure that every time you think about losing weight, you feel inspired, you feel motivated, you feel energetic, you feel amazing. And you got to make sure that every time you think about those foods that you crave, or the junk that you used to do, or the bad habits, you have to think about ultimate pain, discomfort, like just retaliation, resistance, all bad things come from that. And only good things come from the other hand. And when you get aware on that, when you really dig in and you really feel that, things change, man. It's all a shift in mindset. You got to start here, right? And then don't forget about here. And then the rest of it's out here. Like, you got to take action afterwards, right? This isn't just about changing your mind. This is about changing your life, right? And it starts in the mind. Okay, I'm out of here, guys. Today's been a fun episode. Again, I don't know if it's the fasting that's making me feel like clear-headed and amazing or what, but yes, I feel great. So if you guys want to support what we're doing, obviously you guys go to patreon.com/implicit. And also, I would love if you guys could, like, if you guys are watching the show and you ever hear any highlights that you really think like, man, he really went off for this minute, or like he's interviewing this guest and that guest said this amazing thing in like this 2-minute span, time map that. I'd love to time map that, and then we could go in there and take that clip out and be like, okay, like then we could share just that one clip, because maybe, you know, a lot of people don't have time, or they don't feel like watching the whole thing. It's too daunting to them, but just seeing a little clip is just enough. This could be just the small little push, the small little shift in mindset that they need to change their life. And so that's super powerful. Also, quotes, you know, if you guys could come up with a quote during the show, something I say, something a guest says, something that comes to your mind, type that in the comments too. And that's something we could share as well with people, because sometimes that's all it takes is a quote to change your life, right? Me and Andrea know how that is. You know, I know Andrea's story is a lot like that. You know, one quote made her shift her thinking and think about everything differently. And years down the line, right? Months down the line, decades down the line, you're a different person. It ultimately changes your destiny. It's amazing. Okay, so that's everything, guys. If you guys got some value from this, make sure you share it with a friend, somebody who you think could relate to what we're talking about, somebody you think who might get some value from this. Share the love, basically. You know, I'm here sharing the love with you. Maybe you could share the love with a friend. Share the podcast, share an idea that you learned, send a nice positive message or a quote or a clip or something. I don't know. Do something good today. Feel good about yourself. One random act of kindness. Who knows? You know, it could change your life, could change the world.